Right now, somewhere on a calendar you have not looked at yet, a number is quietly counting down. As of today, we are just over 170 days away from February 6, 2027, the exact moment the old year closes its door, the Fire Goat Year opens its own. This is not a metaphor. This is a real date, fixed on the lunar calendar, and it is coming whether anyone notices it or not. Picture two people for a moment. Neither of them knows their zodiac sign changes what is ahead. One of them will scroll past this date without a second thought, keep the same habits, make the same choices, and let February 6 pass like any other Saturday. The other person, somewhere else in the world, doing something completely ordinary, maybe making tea. Maybe walking a dog, will happen to look up the date, read something like this, and quietly shift one or two decisions because of it. We are going to follow both of these people through this video, and by the end, you will see exactly how their years unfold differently, without either of them doing anything dramatic. Here is what is waiting for you if you stay. We will explain, from the very beginning, what a Fire Goat Year even means. Then, we will introduce 3 signs, the ones classical tradition treats as the closest, warmest companions to the goat this year, and we will not rush through them. Each one gets its own dedicated section, its own reasoning, its own lucky month. After that, all 9 remaining signs get real, individual attention, not a rushed list. And at the very end, one simple action that every single sign, no matter what, can use starting February 6. Let's begin where all of this actually comes from. What a Fire Goat Year actually means in the old Chinese system of counting years, every year carries 2 ingredients, not 1. There is an animal this time, the goat, and there is an element drawn from 5, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. For 2027, the element is fire. But here is the detail almost nobody explains clearly. There are 2 kinds of fire in this system, a bold outward kind called Yang Fire, and a softer inward kind called Yin Fire. 2027 belongs to Yin Fire. Think of Yang Fire as a bonfire in an open field, loud and visible from far away. Yin Fire is closer to a candle on a windowsill, or the warmth still glowing in coals after the flames have died down. It does not announce itself. It works quietly, close to the surface, easy to miss if you are not paying attention. The goat itself carries yin earth, a gentle, receiving kind of ground, like soft soil in a garden bed rather than a mountain of stone. So 2027 is Yin Fire sitting on yin earth warmth, resting gently on soft ground. A year classical tradition describes as nurturing rather than forceful. This matters even more when you place it next to last year. 2026 was a fire horse year, Yang Fire fast, bright, restless, a year that classical readers often describe as pushing people to move quickly and take visible risks. 2027 asks for something different. If last year felt like running, this year is closer to tending a small flame you have to protect from wind, patient and steady rather than urgent. Keep that image in mind, because everything else in this video builds from it. Why horse, rabbit, and pig are called the Golden Trio classical Chinese astrology has an old idea called San He, which simply means 3 harmony, or sometimes translated as a trine. The idea is that certain groups of 3 signs, spaced evenly around the 12-year cycle, share a natural chemistry with each other, almost like 3 points that complete a stable triangle. For the goat, That triangle is formed with the rabbit and the pig. Classical tradition holds that rabbit, goat, and pig share an underlying wood energy connection, and wood is exactly what feeds a fire year. The same way adding dry branches keeps a small flame alive rather than letting it fade. Then there is a second, separate kind of bond called Lu Hei, or secret friend, which pairs signs 2 by 2 rather than 3 by 3. The goat's secret friend is the horse. Where the Sunny Trio works like 3 legs of one table, a secret friend pairing is closer to 2 old companions who simply understand each other without needing much explanation. This is why horse joins rabbit and pig this year as part of what we are calling the Golden Trio, not because they are identical in their connection to the goat, but because both kinds of bond, the trio and the pair, are considered supportive in classical practice. If you are a horse, a rabbit, or a pig, what follows next is written specifically with your year in mind. If you are not, stay with us anyway, because the reasoning behind each of these 3 signs will help the section on all 9 remaining signs make far more sense later. Golden Trio Deep Dive, Horse. The secret friend, let's start with horse, because the secret friend bond is the easiest one to feel in daily life, even if it is a little different from the wood trio. Classical texts describe Lu Hei pairs as relationships built on quiet trust rather than shared material, the kind of closeness where 2 signs simply support each other's weaknesses without friction. Horse carries strong fire energy, and goat, as we already covered, carries gentle yin earth. In the older reading, fire and earth calm each other rather than compete, the same way a fire kept near soft ground burns evenly instead of spreading wild. For someone born under the horse, this is believed to translate into a year where impulsive decisions tend to land more safely than in past years. Horses traditionally read as the sign of movement, quick starts, and bold action, sometimes leaping before fully looking. In a fire goat year, some readings suggest that same instinct is softened by the goat's steadying presence, so a horse who normally overcommits might find themselves finishing what they start instead of scattering their energy across 5 unfinished ideas. Relationships may carry a similar theme. Classical secret friend logic often points to partnerships, collaborations, and close one-on-one bonds working smoother than group efforts this year for horse. If you are a horse considering a joint project, a shared lease, a new close friendship, or reconnecting with someone from your past, tradition suggests 2027 treats these one-on-one connections kindly. As for timing within the year, classical practitioners often point to the 6th lunar month, which carries earth energy that echoes the goat year itself, creating what some readings call a doubled harmony. For horse, this window, landing around July of 2027, is considered a particularly favorable stretch for signing agreements, starting new routines, or having important conversations you have been putting off. It is worth adding one more layer here, since horse's relationship to fire itself is often misunderstood. Because horse already carries strong fire in its own nature, some newer readers assume a fire year simply doubles that intensity for horse, making things louder or faster. Classical secret friend theory actually argues the opposite. The goat's soft earth is described as absorbing and grounding horse's fire rather than amplifying it, the way soil settles heat rather than reflecting it back. So instead of a louder year, most classical interpretations describe 2027 has one of horse's calmer years in recent memory, useful for anyone who has felt stretched thin across the past several fire and wood years in a row. Golden Trio Deep Dive, Rabbit, the Wood Trinity partner now to Rabbit, and here the flavor of the connection shifts. Where horse and goat calm each other through fire meeting earth, Rabbit and goat share the same underlying wood energy, just expressed differently. Rabbit is considered softwood. Think of a young plant, flexible, bending in wind rather than breaking. In the 5-element production cycle, wood feeds fire, the same relationship a piece of dry kindling has with a flame. So for Rabbit this year, that wood energy is not just sitting quietly beside the goat's fire, it is actively feeding it. This gives Rabbit's year a particular character. Some classical readings describe wood signs feeding a fire year as a period where their own effort becomes highly visible, almost amplified, because the surrounding year is hungry for exactly the kind of energy Rabbit naturally produces. If Rabbit tends to be quiet, careful, detail-oriented, this may be a year where that quiet care gets noticed by people who matter, rather than passed over. There is also a career dimension worth naming separately from the emotional one. In Bazi reasoning, an element that actively produces the year's dominant element is often associated with what practitioners call output influence, meaning the visible result of a person's skill or talent. For Rabbit, that suggests 2027 may be a stronger year than usual for anything creative, communicative, or craft-based, work where the finished product speaks for itself rather than requiring someone else to vouch for it. A portfolio, a proposal, a piece of writing, a carefully built plan, these are the kinds of output some readers say tend to land well for Rabbit this year, more so than roles depending purely on authority or seniority. There is a gentler side to this too, worth naming honestly. Feeding a fire also means giving something of yourself. Classical tradition sometimes cautions wood signs in a strong fire year to watch their own energy levels, resting when tired rather than pushing through. Because generosity that goes one direction for too long can leave a person depleted. This is not a warning of misfortune, simply a reminder that even a supportive year benefits from balance. For lucky timing, tradition often points Rabbit toward the second lunar month, which falls in Mao, the Rabbit's own month, landing around March of 2027. Some readings also highlight the 11th lunar month in Zai, when water arrives to nourish Rabbit's own wood roots before the cycle continues. Around early March and again in December of 2027, Rabbit may find both fresh starts and satisfying closures easier to reach than usual. One more note for Rabbit before we move to Pig. Because giving energy outward is such a strong theme this year, some classical readers pair this wood feeds fire pattern with a gentle caution about rest rather than fortune. This is never framed as a warning of misfortune, only as a practical reminder that steady output, sustained across 12 months, tends to hold up better when a person protects sleep and downtime on purpose, rather than treating rest as something to earn only after everything else is finished. Golden Trio Deep Dive, Pig. The second Trinity partner Pig completes the wood trine alongside Rabbit.
And it is worth slowing down here, rather than treating Pig as a repeat of what we just covered.
Down here, rather than treating Pig as a repeat of what we just covered. Where Rabbit is often described as soft, young wood, Pig in this system is tied to water rather than wood directly, and its role in the trio comes from being the starting point of the wood trine's cycle rather than the wood itself. Classical thinking treats pig as the seed stage, the quiet beginning before growth becomes visible, while rabbit represents that growth already in bloom. What this means for someone born under the pig sign in 2027 is a year that may feel less about outward recognition and more about foundation building. If rabbit's year is described as visible effort meeting visible reward, pig's year, by contrast, is often read as behind-the-scenes groundwork that pays off later rather than immediately. Some classical interpretations suggest pig may spend much of 2027 planting things, literally or figuratively, whose results only become clear well into 2028 or beyond. This does not mean the year feels empty for pig, only patient. Pig is traditionally associated with generosity, comfort, and strong instincts about people, and in a year where the goat also values gentleness and care, some readers describe this as a natural chemistry of temperament as much as element. Pig may find that kindness offered this year returns in ways that were not directly planned, arriving from unexpected corners rather than the place it was first given. For favorable timing, tradition points toward the 10th lunar month in High, pig's own month, landing around November of 2027, a stretch some readers describe as ideal for finally seeing early efforts begin to take a recognizable shape. A secondary window in the 4th lunar month, around May, is sometimes noted as well, when pig's water quietly supports the young wood of rabbit season just before it. When pig's water quietly supports the young wood of rabbit season just before it. There is a relationship theme worth mentioning for pig specifically, separate from career or timing. Because pig's element is water, and water is traditionally associated with intuition, emotional depth, and reading a room without needing words. Some classical readers describe a fire goat year as especially favorable for pig's closer relationships, family bonds in particular. A parent, an older relative, or a long-standing friendship may deepen naturally this year, less through grand gestures and more through small, repeated acts of showing up, the same slow accumulation that defines pig's whole approach to the year. The first character returns remember the two people from the very beginning of this video. It is time to check in on one of them. Let's say the person who happened to look up their year, the one who made a few small adjustments, turns out to be a rabbit. Classical, hedge tradition would suggest something like this for her year, because her sign feeds directly into 2027's fire energy, her quiet, careful work finishing a certification, tending an old friendship, showing up consistently at a job she has held for years, has a better chance of being noticed by the people who decide raises, promotions, or new opportunities. Nothing here is guaranteed. It is simply that the surrounding conditions, according to this framework, lean in her favor if she keeps showing up. Now picture the same woman if she had never looked up the date at all, never adjusted anything, simply lived the year exactly as she would have anyway. Classical tradition does not claim her year turns difficult. It simply suggests she may move through the same favorable conditions without noticing them, the way sunlight still warms a room whether or not anyone opens the curtains to watch it happen. The difference between these two versions of her year, according to this framework, is not about luck arriving or not arriving. It is about whether she is positioned to receive what is already present. A quiet question And where this calendar comes from, here's something worth sitting with for a moment, not to answer out loud, just to notice, when was the last time you actually knew in advance which season of your own life you were standing in? Most of us only recognize a season after it has already passed. This calendar system was built centuries ago, precisely so people would not have to wait that long. The naming behind 2027 Ding Wei comes from an ancient counting method called the stem branch system, which pairs 10 heavenly stems with 12 earthly branches to create a full cycle of 60 unique year names before any combination repeats. Ding is the stem-carrying yin fire, the fourth of the 10 stems. Wei is the branch carrying the goat, the 8th of the 12 branches. Together, Ding Wei has appeared in history roughly every 60 years, and the last time this exact pairing occurred was 1967. This system has quietly tracked time in East Asia for over 2,000 years, long before it was ever attached to modern astrology content like this. Counting down the rest of the year, so here we are, past the halfway point of this video, and the countdown clock we opened with has not stopped running in the background. There are still just over 5 months left before February 6, 2027 actually arrives, which means there is still real time to prepare rather than simply react once the year begins. What comes next belongs to everyone who has not heard their sign mentioned yet, because the Fire Goat Year does not skip anyone. It simply relates to each remaining sign in its own distinct way. The remaining 9 signs rat carries strong water energy, and in the 5-element system, water tends to control fire, cooling it down the way rain dampens a small flame. This is often read as a year where rat benefits from patience over speed, letting plans mature slowly rather than forcing quick outcomes. A useful action for rat this year is documenting progress carefully, since results may take longer to show than usual. Classical readers often point to the 9th lunar month around October 2027 as a favorable stretch for rat. Some readers add that rat's usual quickness serves them better this year when paired with a written plan, since water controlling fire is described less as opposition and more as guidance, the way a riverbank does not fight the water so much as direct where it flows. Ox shares yin earth with the goat, much like a distant cousin sharing a family trait, though without the closeness of a true trio bond, and some traditions actually treat this pairing as a mild clash worth watching rather than open harmony, since both signs can be equally stubborn when pushed. The suggested action for Ox is choosing flexibility deliberately in disagreements this year rather than digging in out of habit. The 12th lunar month, around January 2028, is often named as Ox's strongest window. Tiger carries strong wood energy similar to rabbit, feeding the year's fire in a comparable way, though Tiger's wood is considered bold and upright rather than soft, closer to a young tree than a climbing vine. This suggests a year where Tiger's natural boldness is well received, provided it comes paired with follow-through. A grounding action for Tiger is finishing one major project fully before starting the next. The first lunar month, around February 2027, right at the year's opening, is considered especially active for Tiger. Dragon carries Yang Earth, and Yang Earth meeting the goat's Yin Earth is often described in classical terms as 2 different textures of the same material, workable together but requiring some adjustment, not unlike 2 skilled cooks sharing one kitchen. The suggested action for Dragon is seeking one collaborator this year rather than working entirely alone, since shared projects are favored over solo ones. The 7th lunar month, around August 2027, is frequently highlighted for Dragon. Snake, much like Rooster later in this list, holds a distinct relationship to the goat worth naming honestly. Classical tradition does not place Snake in direct harmony with the goat this year, describing the connection as neutral, neither clashing nor especially supportive. For Snake, this is often read as an invitation to lean on personal discipline rather than external circumstances, since the surrounding year offers less automatic lift than it does for other signs. A grounding action for Snake is setting personal goals independent of outside validation. The 5th lunar month, around June 2027, is considered a comparatively steadier stretch. Interestingly, some readers note Snake shares hidden fire qualities beneath its surface water nature, meaning a neutral year for Snake is rarely described as a flat one, simply one that rewards internal focus over waiting for outside circumstances to shift in Snake's favor. Goat, sitting at the very center of this year, is worth its own honest note, since being the year's own sign is not automatically a boost, and classical tradition often treats a person's own year, called Ben Ming Nian, with extra caution rather than extra celebration, encouraging quiet steadiness over big new beginnings. The suggested action for Goat is avoiding major irreversible decisions in the opening weeks of the year, giving the energy time to settle first. The 8th lunar month, around September 2027, Goat's own month, is often considered the most naturally comfortable stretch. Monkey carries metal energy, and metal is generally described as being weakened or drained by a fire year rather than strengthened by it, the way heat can soften even hard material over time. This suggests a year where Monkey benefits from protecting personal energy carefully, saying no more often than usual. A grounding action for Monkey is scheduling deliberate rest rather than waiting until exhaustion forces it. The 3rd lunar month, around April 2027, is sometimes noted as a gentler window within an otherwise demanding year. Some classical readers also suggest Monkey lean on Earth-associated support this year, since Earth produces metal in the generating cycle, meaning stable routines. Dependable people and predictable environments may do more for Monkey's well-being in 2027 than usual bursts of ambition. Rooster, like Snake, sits in a neutral position relative to the Goat this year, without direct clash, but without the trio's natural lift either. Some classical readers suggest Rooster's metal nature, while not in open conflict with fire, still asks for extra intentionality rather than passive waiting. A useful action for Rooster is choosing one clear skill to sharpen this year rather than spreading focus across many small efforts. The 8th lunar month again touches favorably here as well, alongside Goat, around September 2027. Dog shares yin-earth qualities with the Goat somewhat similarly to Ox, and classical tradition generally reads this as mild, workable common ground rather than a difficult pairing, closer to two calm temperaments coexisting comfortably. A grounding action for Dog is strengthening one existing relationship this year rather than searching for entirely new ones. The 6th lunar month, around July 2027, alongside Horse's window, is often mentioned favorably for Dog as well. one action every single sign can use no matter which of the 12 signs you carry, classical Feng Shui offers one shared suggestion for a Yin Fire year, and it comes directly from the same production cycle we just looked at. Since Yin Fire is described as gentle and easily dimmed, practitioners have long suggested gently strengthening it rather than letting it fade unsupported, the same way a small candle benefits from being shielded from a draft rather than exposed to open wind. The traditional method for this involves light, placed specifically in the south area of a home, since the south direction has long been associated with the fire element in Chinese directional theory. Adding a lamp, a warm light source, or simply keeping that corner of a room bright and uncluttered is considered a simple way to support the year's underlying fire energy. A secondary suggestion involves gently activating the southeast, the direction traditionally tied to wood, since wood feeds fire the same way it does for rabbit and pig in the trio. Fresh plants, wooden furniture, or simply decluttering that section of a home are common, low-cost ways this gets applied. Returning to both characters, one last time, let's close the loop on the two people we have been following. The rabbit, the one who read a little further and made a few adjustments, spends her final months of 2027 the way December often works for signs directly fed by the year's element, quietly aware that a full year of steady, visible effort has actually accumulated into something real. Whether that shows up as a new role, a strengthened friendship, or simply a version of herself she trusts more than she did in January. And the other person, the one who never noticed February 6 come and go at all? Classical tradition does not claim her year turned out badly, and this video will not pretend otherwise. It simply suggests she likely experienced the same underlying currents everyone did this year, just without the extra intention that sometimes turns a background current into a used opportunity. Some years pass through us, some years we choose to stand inside of on purpose. Neither path is a failure. One is simply more awake than the other. Closing, man luck, and a real invitation before this ends, one honest reminder, the same one classical tradition itself has always insisted on: no year, however favorable, replaces personal effort. Practitioners often speak of three kinds of luck working together: heaven luck, the timing you are born into and cannot control; earth luck, the environment and choices you shape around yourself; and man luck, the effort, discipline, and character you bring regardless of what year it happens to be. A Fire Goat Year offers gentle conditions. It does not do the work for you. Grandmaster Lin Feng Shui has always framed this channel around exactly that balance, respecting the old wisdom while never asking anyone to hand their effort over to a calendar. If any part of this resonated, tell us in the comments which of the 12 signs you carry, and whether your year ahead sounds more like the rabbit who noticed, or the version of yourself still deciding whether to look up. Either way, February 6 is still coming. What you do with the months before it arrives is, as it always has been, entirely up to you.